بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي، يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليك منا سلام الله أبدا ما بقينا وبقي الليل والنهار. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب يا شهيد، ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمنا من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. تبكيك عيني يا سيدي لا لأجل مثوبة، لكنما عيني لأجلك باكيا. تبتل منكم كربلاء بدمع ولا تبتل مني بالدموع الجارية. أنست رزيتكم رزايانا التي سلفت وهونت الرزايا الآتية. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين ومن سار على هديهم وتمسك بهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. I don't think there is a religion or a faith that has dedicated so much emphasis to the way we should raise our children and give attention the way Islam has. In fact, in the sayings of Rasulullah and that of Imam Ali salawatullah wa salamu alayhi in particular, we find so much emphasis about taking into account how to raise children and interact with children, not within the scope of our own time, but to go beyond the time we live into that of the future. Such as the statement by Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh, in which he says, رَبُّوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ لِزَمَانٍ غَيْرِ زَمَانِكُمْ. Discipline, teach your children, interact them, train them to a day and age different to your day and age. Because what is suitable for us at one particular time may not be suitable in order to raise our children accordingly, or to train them based on the time that we were raised in, right? We have different methodologies, we have different ways, we have different mechanism. What worked for us may not work for others. What may have worked for us may have been, for example, and I'm sorry to say this, the cane. But today you give the cane to your children, they call 000 on you, right? Or they call 911, because that is considered abuse in certain societies that we live in. And Islam does not endorse that. Even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks about discipline, discipline does not necessarily mean physical discipline. And we need to understand and value and appreciate this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sorry if I draw your attention, there is a car that is blocking the, I think, some emergency vehicle or something like that. So if you are the owner of this FJ? Yeah. FJ Annabi, yani maroon in color, I believe. So if anyone has this car, please do your level best to move it so that we can facilitate the traffic of this vehicle. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So what is possible or what is feasible in some cultures, in some societies, in some communities may not apply as a methodology of training to others. For example, the hadith I said, which the Imam speaks about, basically translate as follows: train, teach, and raise your children to a time different to your time. And in modern today educationalists, what do they call this? You see, we have gems. We have gems in the sayings of our imams, but the unfortunate thing is we do not know how to market these gems. In the West, you would find that often in order to market a particular ideology or idea, they use amazing terminology in order to appeal to the person to follow it. However, I'm not denying the fact that at times this particular terminology is actually effective. It actually has a point. It actually serves the purpose of raising a very healthy, educated, confident, and very well-esteemed children in the society that we live in. They call it positive parenting. Positive parenting in today's world is one of the most sought over ways of raising children. Why? Because it is not based on a corrosive way of raising children. It is not based on a harmful way of raising children. Rather, the way they want to appeal to these children in the sense that they want these children to gain confidence in themselves in order to be active members in giving back into the society, not based on just being an individual on their own right. No. In fact, one of the most renowned Harvard University graduates made a study recently in which he nominated 5 points that parents must employ in the teachings of their kids. And it all revolves around one concept: how for your child to be caring. Something that is missing in our communities. Sometimes when parents want to advise their children, they tell them, learn how to be happy. This Harvard graduate says, this is a wrong statement. What we should tell our children is learn how to be kind. Not just how to be happy. How to be kind. Because on the basis of being kind, that's where happiness can come from. Because when you are kind to others, and this is in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he shows that kindness and giving are much, much more worthy than receiving. Where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says what? Al-yadul ulya ahabbu ila Allah min al-yadi sufla. Meaning what? A hand that gives. And Rasulullah uses this metaphor of saying an upper hand is worth more in the eyes of Allah than the lower hand. Meaning the hand that gives is more worthy in the eyes of Allah than the hand that receives. Why? Because when you learn how to give, that's when you learn how to be happy. That's when you learn how to rid yourself of selfishness, how to rid yourself of being exclusives and to be inclusives. And that's what is encouraged in our communities and in our religion and in our faith, to always extend of yourself towards others. There is a story about a man who wanted to teach his child in action how to be generous. So he would, every Friday when he goes to Friday Salah, he would give 5 dinars to his son. And he says, go and give it in charity. He started with his child at the age of about 7. Giving him every Friday 5 dinars or dollars or whatever the case may be to go and give it in charity. Look what happened. When that child turned 17, his father handed out to him the 5 dinars. The son said, what is this for, Dad? He said, to give it in charity. He said, it's already been paid. He said, how? He said, you've been teaching me positiveness of giving since I was 7. I could not wait for the day to start earning so I can pay it from my pocket. This is the beauty of teaching in action. Rather, what we do, we don't even tell our children the value of charity, the value of giving. We do it in our own rights, you know. We do it without informing anyone, which is a great things to do. But how do we teach our children how to be positive in their approach and in the way they do things? Positive parenting is an approach to parenting that aims to promote children's development and manage children's behavior in a constructive and non-harmful way. It is based on good communication and positive attention to help children develop and grow positively. i.e., we must engage with our children in communication and dialogue. When your children come to you to ask you, stop everything and have a dialogue with them. Dad, Mom, today this happened at school. I don't have time, I'm watching the news. You've killed that confidence in your child. You've killed any reason or any motivation on behalf of the child to approach you the second time. Mom, Dad, I am having an issue at school, whether it's bullying or otherwise. The mom is too busy cutting onions or preparing a meal for I don't know what. Come after the meal. There is no investment that is worth more in a family than investing in your child. No meal, no sweet, no chai sabah, if you still have it here in this country, right? Chai al-duha يسمونها. No, nothing is more important than investing in your child. Because that is the moment when your child is appealing to you. Look at Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is in the house of Salama. He says to Salama, Ya Salama, today I am having a bit of tiredness issue. My body is tired. I don't want anyone to come into the room. Salama says, of course, Ya Rasulullah, you are entitled to your rest. All of a sudden, Al-Imam Al-Hasan Al-Hussein crawls into the room of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salama says, I rushed after the 2 grandchildren of Rasulullah to pull them out in order not to disturb Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, no, Ya Salama, da'ihima fa innahuma rayhanataya min ad-dunya. Leave them. These are the 2 fragrant flowers of this world for my heart. Why did the Prophet say that? In order to raise more the rank of Imam Hassan and Hussein? No, that is one part. But the other part is to highlight how important it is for parents to interact with children. That there is no time for parents to say this is a time of rest when it comes to raising kids. Although kids automatically, by virtue of being or observing how their parents become role models, they will learn how to accept and respect the private times of their parents as well. But this has to come through what? Through dialogue and through communication between the children and the parents. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The reason why we need to employ such methodology is because children who grow up with positive parenting are likely to develop their skills and feel good about themselves, and they are also less likely to develop behavioral problems. When a child is confident, when a child is able to express himself, like for example, you go to the West. I'm not impressed by the West, but this is a fact. And when there is a fact, we should acknowledge it, right? You go to the West, for example, and you dialogue with a 7 or 8-year-old boy. You think you are actually talking to an adult. Why? This is not coming from vacuum. This is coming from the fact that this child at home is having access to his parents, and he's able to dialogue at any topic that the parents raise at home, right? He is able to talk to you about politics, about religion, about faith, about economy, about poverty, about world politics, any subject. And that is further driven by what? By what they call the debate system in school. They start them at a young age. From the age of 6, they put them on a pedestal against one another to debate the most controversial issues at hand, so that these children can gain self-confidence in expressing themselves. Look at this riwayah and look at this hadith. Rasulullah is seated among his companions. All of a sudden, a child walks into the gathering of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He does not find a place to sit except to the right of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Rasulullah is sitting like this. This child comes and sits to the right of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, one of the people in the majlis brings Rasulullah a jug of milk, laban, and he gives it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, the methodology that Rasulullah adopts is that he never drinks before he offers his guests. This is one of the things that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaches us, to be hospitable to our guests. So he says to the child, now Rasulullah has to start from where? From left or right? From right. So he turns to the child. He says, Bunay, there are adults sitting in the majlis. Rasulullah did not bypass him because he's a child. He says, Bunay, there are adults sitting in the majlis. Would you grant me permission to give them the milk first before you? The child says, no, Ya Rasulullah. Ajib. Rasulullah looks at him, he says, why? He says, because I want to have the honor of touching that glass that you touched first. Look at that love. Huh? Look at that feeling towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now Rasulullah says what? He turns to the adults in the majlis. He said the boy made his point. He made his point. He didn't marginalize him. He didn't say, whose sons are you? Huh? You have no manners, right? They didn't teach you well. No, he would have killed his self-confidence if he told him that. Secondly, the child did not say anything against ethics. He said something, in fact, that is very warm. He wants to be or have the privilege of touching the cup that the hands of Rasulullah touch first. Look at the child was very smart. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam acknowledged the child then turned to Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, because you acknowledged me, now I say to you, of course, offer my elders before me. Subhanallah. This is the kind of ethics, the kind of akhlaq, the kind of character we want to instill in our children. But if that child is at home, for example, right? And that child is not being respected by the parents, In fact, if anything, he is being put down at everything he says or does. Where will that child ever gain confidence from? Never. You think, for example, Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, salawatullah wa salamu alayh, when his uncle asked him, how do you see death? And he answered, I see death for your cause. Oh, my uncle, sweeter than honey. It came from vacuum? No, it came from training. It came from the way Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhim ajma'een used to communicate and speak with their children and train them at the highest level of training. Imam Hussein salawatullah wasalam alayhi, to show you how he instilled confidence in his child and those who appreciated and taught his child. Once one of his children went to the mosque. He came back. After coming back, he was young, very young. He was able to articulate and read Surah Al-Fatiha in a manner that Imam Hussein never heard him reciting this Surah Al-Fatiha. So he turned to his son. He says, where did you learn this Fatiha from? He said, there was a reciter in the mosque of Medina. He was teaching children, so I joined them. He said, call him. Call that reciter. I want to see him. So the son of Imam Hussein goes and calls the reciter. Imam Hussein, the riwayah says, took out jewels made of rubies and began to fill, the riwayah says, the mouth of that reciter in recognition of what he had taught Imam al-Hussein. And then he told him, وَعْذُرْنَا عَنِ التَّقْصِيرِ, and please pardon us for not paying you enough for what you have contributed to the education of our children. Ajib. Imagine that child is looking at his father now, Imam Hussein, seeing how he's recognizing his teacher and also showing confidence in his son for learning Quran. How much this child will grow to have confidence in life later on and in what he can express and do. This is what we need to do. Our children is our amana. They are a trust in our hand. If at any stage in their life they deviate, I say that deviation has to be a cause or a sense of alarm as to what went on in our own homes right from the beginning. How did we raise them? On what did we raise them? What did we make them watch? What did we not make them watch? How did we communicate with them? What we taught them? What did we not teach them? And then we can see the result of how they can be raised in the right methodology and in the right way. Of course, there are always odd cases. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirmed that you may spend all your effort and all your time in whatever you can in order to raise healthy, good, mu'min, taqi children, but at the end of the day they choose otherwise. That is only, the knowledge of that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah gave us example of the children of prophets. For example, the son of Nuh, قال إنه ليس من ابن ليس من أهلك إنه عمل غير صالح. He said he's not from your family anymore. He just chose his way. You've done your part. You've done what you are obligated to do. Then you are at liberty to say before Allah, Ya Allah, I am making you bear witness that I have done my duty before my children, and they chose otherwise. It is their responsibility based on their obligation and responsibility. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So what are the things we need to train our children on in order to ensure their survival and safety on the basis of their aqidah and how they should interact in public life? There are 12 points we should follow. Okay, sorry, you may have to stay until Fajr Salah, bear with me. But I'll try to, summarize the 12 points in as much as I can. I know we have to leave by 10, so inshallah I will try my level best. Number one that we must emphasize in the life of our children is their strength in faith. We must make them confident about their faith. However, for them to be able to be confident in their faith, this does not come from harmful communication or dictation of orders. and rules. No, it has to come through a methodology of rahmah and communication, dialogue. And to actually do what? Give these children the ability to articulate themselves in the way they ask the question, and for us to articulate the answer back to them. Yani, for example, a child comes and asks his parents, prove to me the oneness of God. That's a question no parent likes to be asked. You know, I'll tell you why. Because I'll speak about myself. Most of us don't know how to articulate the answer. You know, we don't know how to answer. So what do we do? Huwa Allah wahdu khalas. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. I am attending school that they are denying the very existence of God. For you to come and tell me take it or leave it is not an answer. And this will not give me confidence later on in life when someone comes to undermine my faith or my religion, for me to say take it or leave it. No. I have to sit with that child and speak with him and go through the painstaking effort of explaining to him the oneness of God. Isn't it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself who said in the Quran, what did he say? Did he say you just have to believe like that? Or did he say فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ? You must learn. You must teach yourself. You must educate yourself. You must thoroughly go through every evidence in order to prove the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to yourself and to the community that you are living in, and obviously your children. Even when challenged, these children, if they have strong faith right from the beginning, even when challenged, they do not change their mind just to fit with the crowd. No, they see, for example, a group of people. In order to be part of that group of people, they must conform to certain standards, right? Otherwise, you won't fit. And sometimes our children find themselves in such a weak position in as far as their faith is concerned, that what do? They give up on their faith simply to fit in. For example, in some schools in the West, for example, the mention of God, the word God itself, is something that is not tolerated. That you are considered someone who's backward. To think that you still in this day and era, in the 21st century, that you say, oh God, this is something not normal. So what do you say? You say, oh gosh. Who's gosh? Only Allah knows where this term comes from. Even the word God, they don't want you to say it. So, oh gosh. Gosh, even Homer Simpson says, oh gosh. And we are the product of the culture of Homer Simpson and all this, unfortunately Hollywood, games and series and soap operas that come to us in order to invade our very aqidah, and we are not prepared to what? To rebut such nonsense. Right? And this is systematic, brothers and sisters. Don't think that this is coming from vacuum. Don't think this is in the name of fun. Yes, it appears to us in the name of fun, but it is systematic to take you away from your religion and from your faith in order to make this world a world that has no basis of faith in a God or in a deity that we call a creator. It's systematic. It is done for purpose. And look at what Allah says in the Quran. وَإِن كَانَ مَكْرُهُمْ لِتَزُولَ مِنْهُ الْجِبَالِ. Their plotting, their planning is to do what? It's not just to eradicate you. It's to eradicate mountains from its place. The plotting that it happens behind closed doors. Wallah, had it not been for the mercy of Allah that is overcoming us, only Allah knows what will happen to us. And this appears very much and very clear in the hadith about Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, when it is stated in the hadith that had it not been for the presence of a hujjah of Allah on earth, لَسَاخَتْ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضِ. This earth would, would slip from under your feet. it will sweep you off your feet because of the plotting and the planning of those against you in order to rid you of anything that is called faith. So we need to be minded about this very important issue. Wallah, I saw a child once with his dad, and his dad probably is listening to my lecture now, and he doesn't know I'm going to talk about it today. He lives in London. He was a great entrepreneur that lived in Dubai and then moved back to London. One day, out of the blue, he picks up the phone and he says, "Salaam alaikum, Sheikh." He's crying, sobbing like a child. I says, "Brother so-and-so, what is happening to you? God forbid you lost a relative?" He said, "No, these are tears of happiness, Sheikh." I said, "Tell me." He said, "My son is just turning 16 or 17. He's doing his last year in college." Yani school. Sorry, not university, school. So I told him, if you do good, I promise you, around that time there was the World Cup. I will buy you a ticket to go to the World Cup and to go and see all the games of the World Cup if you pass your last year of school with merits." The son looked at me and he smiled, Sheikh. I said, "Good." And then he said, then he went out and then came back after half an hour. He said, "Dad, are you still keeping your promise?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Can I change it to something else?" I said, "What did he say?" He said, "Can I ask you, instead of sponsoring my trip to the World Cup, that you allow me to sponsor my trip to the ziyarah of Imam Hussein?" I said, I don't want to mention the name of the brother. I said, "Why did he say this?" He said, "Sheikh, because I used to take him to the majlis of Imam Hussein since he was 6 years old. I built his aqeed. This is my investment in him. And now it paid off. It paid off now. Wallah, Sheikh, I'm crying tears of laughter and happiness because I could not have better invested in my son in anything better than this statement." Allahu Akbar. Better than this statement. What you put in your child is what you get later on. But if we neglect our children, right? If we make them believe holidays are better than the imams, right? Or better than the ziyarah. Yes, ziyarah comes with hardship, but go. We need to link our children with their heritage. Because if you link them with their heritage, that's when they value their presence. And they value their faith. And they value the sacrifice of such people. Why would Imam Hussein salawatullahi wasalam alayhi, this grandeur of a personality, this amazing grandson of Rasulullah, who had every opportunity to live a life of peace, right? Since he has already been declared as the inhabitant of Jannah. Right? Who can deny the fact from all school of thoughts, from any walk of life, that Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi is one of the inhabitants of Jannah, right? Al-Hasan wal-Hussein sayyiday shababi ahlil Jannah. No one can deny this fact, right? Yet he comes out of Medina to struggle and fight for what? This is what we need to learn, brothers and sisters. Not for him. So that Islam can reach you and me. You know, sometimes I sit and I look and I ponder on the struggle of Imam Hussein. I say, بِأَبِي أَنْتَ وَأُمِّي يَا أَبَا عَبْدَ اللَّهِ, am I worth your blood? Am I worth the sacrifice of Ali al-Akbar and Ali al-Asghar to preserve that faith for someone like me who's a sinner? Someone like me who's a sinner who commits sins every day. Yet you were willing, with your compassionate heart, with your amazing outlook on life, with not sparing anything of yourself and of your family and of your children. For who? For you and me. Allahu Akbar. What a giving heart is that of Abi Abdullah salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And if only we could ponder on the magnitude of giving of this remarkable son of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and instill this in the mindset of our children when we dialogue with them and when we talk to them. There is no sacrifice as big as that of Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa sallam alayhi that can have an effect on our lives and how to appreciate what sacrifice means when it comes to holding fast to your religion. Rasulullah said it before Imam Hussein salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, when he came and approached his uncle. Wallahi ya amma law wada'u al-qamara fi yamini wash-shamsa fi yasari ala an atruka hadha ad-din ma taraktuhu hatta yudhhirahu Allah ala ad-din kullih aw ahlaka duna. Allahu Akbar. Ya Rasulullah, Ya Aba Talib, oh my uncle, if these people from Quraysh would offer me the moon in my right hand and the sun in my left hand, so that I would abandon this religion, faith, it's aqidah, my faith, I would not abandon it until Allah would make it, prevail over all other religion, or I die in the process of communicating the message to others. This is faith. This is confidence. This is what we need to give to our children in order to appreciate what they have and what they, have been offered in terms of the sacrifices before them. To be able to achieve that, parents need to be available for their children. And this does not mean that they have to be with them all the time. No, but it means being available when your child needs you the most. That's when you need to be available. And that's when your child will respond to you. If you ask him or ask her to do something, they will accept. Why? Because they saw that you are a role model. And when they wanted you, you never turned your back on them. So when the time comes that you need them, they will turn towards you and not their back against you. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says what? In one of the ahadith, Al-waladu salih ni'ma as-sanadu li-abih al-waladu salih. The good child, the proper child, the pious child is one who the one that always supports his parents, his dad. He's always there for them. Help your children learn by encouraging them to try things for themselves. Encouragement and positive attention help motivate children to learn. And when you see them doing something you like, pay more attention and show them that you like what they are doing, and they will be more likely to do it again. But if you see them doing something right and you don't acknowledge, and you only see the bad in them or the negative in them and make a comment always on the negative and not on the positive, you know what will happen to the children? They will give up on the positive because they're not being recognized. They've always been chastised on the negative. Everything we focus on is the negative. When a child breaks a plate, Ya raytak makhliqat. May you have never been born. Over a plate. May he has never been born. What would you do if he crashed the car then? What would you do? What would you say? You know, if a plate, you don't want him to be born. If he does something wrong, fails in, for example, a particular subject, why are you failing in this subject? Why have you not done enough? What have I done to you? The whole scroll comes down. The whole scroll of complaints. But when that child scores distinction in a subject, yalla, I thought you were going to do it anyway. Ajib. Acknowledge him. Say, MashaAllah, may Allah bless you. May Allah brighten your face the way you brightened my face today. A positive words will shift the paradigm of thinking of your child to a higher degree than just to pick on the negative. And that is not something that Rasulullah acknowledged. Look what Rasulullah said. Even in the negative, Rasulullah would find what? A positive. One day, a man came through the mosque. Subhanallah, 9:20. The man came through the mosque on a Friday prayer. What did he do? You know, you often see this. You know, those, mashallah, quasi, very much, first liners, they call them. You know the first liners? He comes late, but he wants to be where? In the first line. Okay, so he came late. He started walking over the shoulders of others, jumping. So he came, sat in the front line. So Rasulullah is giving a khutbah. After he finished, he said to that man, he said, I am amazed at your love for learning. you're coming to sit in the front line. I'm amazed at your love for learning, but don't do it again. Now the man, he's going to hear what? The first statement, right? I'm amazed at your positiveness for learning. Now when he goes back home, he's going to scratch his head. He said, oh, but Rasulullah said, don't do it again. But he began with the praise, not with the negative, right? He praised him for loving knowledge. Then he told him, this action is not appropriate, right? What we need to learn from that is when your son does something you don't like, try to find the positiveness first and then come and talk to him about the wrong. Look at Sayyidina Al-Masih ibn Maryam, salawatullah عليه وعلى نبينا وآلهما أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Once he was walking with his disciples, Jesus walking with his disciples, what do they come across? They come across, akramakumullah, a dead animal, a dead sheep. So Al-Masih invites each and every disciple to comment. He says, what do you see in this carcass? Someone said, it smells. We always begin with the negative. It smells. The other says, it's ugly, it's rotten. The other one said, it's decomposing. The third, it says, whatever, changing color. Then when they all finished, they turned to Jesus. They said, what do you see in this carcass? He said, I'm amazed at the brightness and the whiteness of its teeth. Haji, dead animal. You could not see all the negative. All you saw is the whiteness of its teeth. Why? Because the Imam, the Prophet then wants to teach these people how to be positive in their life and attitude. And the Prophet ﷺ always used that methodology. Look at the Prophet. Where did he worship Allah? Under the ground? No. He picked the highest level and peak in Mecca, right? He used to travel from Mecca, from the house of Rasulullah, to the mountain of where Hira is. What's the distance? Do you know? 8 kilometers. Rasulullah on average used to travel twice a day. Yani 16 kilometers, not on cemented road. No, on hills and mountains until he would climb the highest level. Why? Because he's saying to his ummah, when you want to reach Allah, reach him at the highest level. Don't settle for, half marks. Don't settle for less quality. Don't settle for anything less than what is great. You're not hermits, right? You're not afraid to show your face. When you have that strong belief system in Allah, go and show the whole world what you have. And you have a duty to do so. But you need to understand it. And you need to advance in doing so. Point number 1. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Number 2. Pride in who you are. Yes. When someone asks you, Salaam alaikum, how are you? You are in the West studying. What are you? My name is so-and-so. I didn't ask you about your name. I'm asking you, who are you? What do you do? What do you believe in? I'm a Muslim. Who? We don't have something called Muslim. You're a Muslim, right? Muslim means someone who's darkened. Or a Mozzie. You know what a Mozzie is? Not a Mozzie. You're a Muslim. Someone who submits to the greatness of Allah. And if that person wants to mock you, fine. The Quran has already told you you're going to be mocked. إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون وإذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم انقلبوا فكهين وإذا رأوهم قالوا إن هؤلاء لضالون فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. Allah told you the scenario of challenge in this world, that when you walk past someone who does not believe in your system, he will mock you. He will wink at you in order to what? draw the attention of others against you, right? And then when he goes back to his family, he will say, you know what I saw today? I saw this tent walking on earth. Yani referring to our sisters, they're walking tents. Or, I saw someone having the tea towel on her head. That's what they say. Tea towel? The hijab is tea towel. There is an Italian minister. He was told, he was the Minister of Education in Italy recently, 2 years ago. He was told, when this wave of banning the hijab in the West, he was told, you should ban the hijab in Italy. You know what he said? He said, I find difficulty in accepting this. They told him, why? Why do you find it? He says, first, when you find me one photograph or one image or one picture of Mary wearing a pair of jeans, I will ban the hijab. But all I see Mary wearing is the scarf, is the dress of dignity and honor. How can you ask me to ban something that I believe in? I believe in Mary. She's the mother, according to him, of his God, right? How can you come and tell me and challenge me on my own faith simply because others want to do it? No, don't compromise. Be proud. When someone comes to tell you, what is this? Dress you up. Answer them like this journalist from Yemen once answered, Karman something her name, when she was given the Nobel Peace Prize as the best journalist of her time. When a Western journalist asked her and said to her, how could you be such a great journalist, yet you still wear the hijab? You know what she told him? She said, and she was standing that time next to Hillary Clinton, side by side, that 70-year-old who still thinks she's beautiful, right? She's done I don't know how many cosmetic surgeries in order to be able to put the lipstick right on her lips. Right? She's standing next to her, and that's what she said to her, to that journalist. He said, listen, when humanity began without dresses. When the intellectual ability began to progress with humans, they began to dress themselves. And when they realized that the epitome of dress and respect is when you cover yourself, that is at the height of your intellect, that's when we took the hijab on board. If you want us to go back to the old ages when we don't have intellect and we began as not people wearing the dress, then that is up to you to go back to that age. For me, I want to go forward, not to go backward. This is confidence. This is someone that knows her hijab. This is someone that is proud about what they have. You know what bugs me and kills me? When one of our sisters is asked, why do you wear the scarf? My husband wants me to. Really? Are you serious? Or my dad forced me. Or my brother said, if you leave the house without the scarf, you're dead meat. You must be kidding me. Right? This is your duty before Allah, not towards your brother or husband or father, by the way. This is your own dignity and honor. This is your own relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is based on that obligation and understanding between you and Allah that you must take the hijab on, and not by, dictation or force from someone that has no right to put that force on you or put that dictation on you. Number 3, capable and skillful. I have to finish, by the way. This is my 3rd point, and I have to move to the majlis. Inshallah, I will email this to doctor or to his respected family, and they can pass it on to the rest of the community, inshallah, because I don't have copyright on my lectures. You can always have access to them. So I'll send you the 12 points, inshallah. But now, capable and skillful. What does that mean? They are able to learn new things with relative ease. They can utilize information in order to achieve the best and most efficient result in everything that they do. And you know who facilitate this? The parents. The parents, they come to facilitate this to their children. Now, one of these kids that were raised on that, despite his young age, which was not even the age of accountability or responsibility, but he was among the family of Abi Abdullah, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. This night of bedding his family farewell Imam Hussein, the 10th night of Al-Muharram, when the Imam came to bid farewell to his family, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Imam Hussein came to the tent to give his last farewell to his family, to say goodbye, that there is no more meeting between us, that I have to leave you and not come back again. Zainab salamullah alayha comes and presents Imam Hussein salawatullah wa salamu alayhi with this young soldier. In one riwayah it says that when Imam Hussein went first, before coming back for the second farewell to his family, he stood in the plains of Karbala and he began to cry out, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. Is there anyone who will come to the rescue? One of the riwayat, you know what it says? It says Abdullah al-Radi' began to move in his bed. It is as if Abdullah al-Radi' is saying to his dad, oh dad, there is still one young soldier in your army. There is Abdullah al-Radi', your son. Zainab says, فَحَرَّكَ يَدَيْهِ حَتَّى خَرَجَتْ مِنَ الْقِمَاطِ. He moved his hands until it came out of his, the wrap around his body, in order, as if he was saying to Imam Hussein, yes, I'm still here. Anyway, when Imam Hussein came back for the second farewell, his sister Zainab presented Abdullah al-Radi' to him, and she said, oh Hussein, your son is subconscious because of the effect of thirst on him. Take him, perchance they will give him a sip of water. The riwayah says, أخذ يطيل النظر إلى ولده الرضيع. Imam Hussein took hold of his infant child, began to look at him, and he wept. The riwayah says when the child smelled his father, Imam Hussein salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh, it is as if he regained his consciousness. أخرج يديه من القماط. He took his hand out of the wrapper and hung his father around the neck. Imam Hussein moved towards the battlefield and he began to call on them, يا قوم قتلتم إخوتي وأولادي وأولاد عمومتي ولم يبقى عندي سوى هذا الرضيع. Oh people, you have killed my brothers, my children, my cousins, and I have no one left except this infant child. You take him and give him a sip of water. There was a dispute among the enemy lines. Some of them began tearful and they felt sorry for the child. They said, give him a sip of water. Others said, no. Umar ibn Sa'ad, he said to us, لا تبقوا لأهل هذا البيت من باقيا. Do not allow anyone to survive among the people of that household. فقال الإمام إن كان للجبار ذنب فما ذنب هذا الصغير. If the adults have committed a sin by fighting you, what sin has this young infant child of mine committed? ساعد الله قلبك يا أبا عبد الله. فالتفت ابن سعد اللعين إلى حرملة. Ibn Sa'ad looked towards Harmala and he said, oh Harmala, make sure you end that dispute among our army. يقول حرملا قلت فما أصنع. Harmala said, what do you want me to do? Should I throw my arrow at the father or at his son? قال ويحك ارمي الطفل بسام. He said, woe unto you, but throw the child with an arrow. يقول حرملة, Harmala says, I placed my arrow in the middle of the bow, and I began to become perplexed as to how I can throw my arrow towards such an infant child. While he was wiggling in the hands of his father, a wind came and blew the cover away from his neck. فلاحت لي كإبريق فضة. I saw his neck shining as if it was a silver goblet. Ya Allah, he says, فرميته فذبحته من الوريد إلى الوريد. He said, I shot my arrow, I killed the child from one jugular vein to the other. وسيدا ورضيعا. Believe me, brothers and sisters, there is no crime in the world that can be compared to the crime of killing this young infant child. They say in France once they replicated the death of Ali al-Asghar. Non-Muslims attend the actual play. When they got to the part where Harmala threw his arrow, the whole crowd walked up to the play and said, stop this, we cannot witness such aggression and such oppression on such a young child. And this was only a replica of what's happening. ساعد الله قلبك يا أبا عبد الله، كيف تحملت وأنت ترى ابنك الرضيع ورقبته على كتفك. May Allah help you, O Abu Abdullah. How could your heart bear such an atrocity, seeing your child neck and head fall down on your side? قيل لحرملة, afterwards Harmala was captured, brothers and sisters, and he was asked by Al-Mukhtar, oh Harmala, didn't you feel anything for that child? When you threw your arrow, did you not feel any pain for this child? He said, yes, I did. They asked him when. He said, when I shot the arrow at Abdullah al-Radhi', it felt as if he felt the heat of my arrow, but he thought it was water being given to him. He took his hands out, he hugged his father, and he began to tremble and turn like a bird that has just been killed. Between the hands of Hussein, Hussein placed his hand under the neck of Al-Radhi' and took the blood and threw it towards heaven. Imam al-Rida salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, he said not a single drop came back to earth. Imam Hussein repeated the following words, Allahumma la yakunu ahwanu alayka min fasil naqati salih. Oh Allah, don't let the killing of that child be any less than the she-camel of your Prophet Saleh. Not a single blood came back to earth, and that is why Imam Mahdi, when he visits Abdullah al-Radhi' in Ziyarat al-Nahiya, he says to him, Assalamu ala Abdullah ibn al-Husayn al-Radhi' al-Marmi al-Sari' al-Mutashahhit dama المصعد بدمه إلى السماء المذبوح من الوريد إلى الوريد ضمه الحسين. Hussein took the child towards his chest and he covered him with his abba. Then he came back to the tent. Who is at the tent to receive him, brothers and sisters? None other than his darling Sukayna. Sukayna came to Imam Hussein. She said, أَبَا لَعَلَّكَ سَقَيْتَ أَخِي مَاءً وَجِئْتَنَا بِبَقِيَّتِهِ. She said, oh father, perchance you have given my brother some water and you brought back to the tent the remaining water. قال بني خذي أخاك مذبوحا. He said, my darling daughter, take your brother, he's been killed. عندها صاحت سكينة وأخاه ورضيعا. Then his mother came. يا زينب عبد الله أريد أولادي حن على صدري وأريد الساعة أرض عنا. She said his mother to Zainab, oh Zainab, this is my son Abdullah, I want him, he is my darling, my chest longs for him and I want to quench his thirst this very minute. It doesn't end there, brothers and sisters. I take just 1 or 2 minutes of your time. Umar ibn Sa'd al-La'in, he says to his people that everyone that brings a head will be rewarded by the Amir. One of those people observed Imam Hussein after Al-Radi' was killed that he had taken behind the tent and he dug a small grave for him and he buried Al-Radi' inside the grave. This man, he says, I was watching Imam Hussein where he was going, and then when that call for the heads was pronounced, I remembered where Imam Hussein buried this young boy. The riwayah says, I went behind the tent with the lance. I began to hit the earth with the lance. يَعُزُّ عَلَيْكُمْ يَا مُؤْمِنِينَ, until my lance hit the body of Abdullah al-Radi'. I picked up the ghulam. I dug him out with my lance. I took my dagger and I began to cut the remaining of his head so that I can raise it on top of a spear. رحم الله من نادى وعبد الله. رحم الله من نادى وغربته. رحم الله من نادى وإماما. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Brothers and sisters, this is the night of Al-Radi'. Insha'Allah, your prayers will be answered. Insha'Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not return your prayers unanswered. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with sincerity. Turn to Allah with an open heart. No one can listen to you like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listens to you. And present Abdullah al-Radi' before your hands and say to Allah, this is wasilatuna ilayka ya Allah. He is our intercession to you. Oh Allah, by the blood of this son, oh Allah, by the blood of this child, relieve us from all our problems, forgive our sins, take away our shortcomings, and make us among your righteous servant. 5 times for those who have asked us, brothers and sisters, for those who have a problem, for those who are sick, for those who have no one to pray for them. Let us join together and pray for them. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibu al-muttarra idha da'ah ويكشف السوء. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. One last time together, brothers and sisters. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء بحق محمد وآل محمد وبحرمة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. Just as a reminder, brothers and sisters, that the maqtal or the tragedy that will be recited tomorrow inshallah in English after the Arabic maqtal will begin sharply at 11:30. So please be here at 11:30. The doors will be open at 11:30 because from 10 o'clock I believe until 11:30 the doors will be locked for the maqtal in Arabic. So please join us either for early for the Arabic